The room felt cold, even though the sun was shining outside. Two young boys sat silently in the corner, their faces pressed into their hands, as if the world had forgotten they existed. Everyone else seemed to laugh, to talk, to move freely, but Justin and Benjamin couldn't hear any of it. They were invisible in a world that ran on sound. Cosmos Eddie watched from across the room, gripping his daughter Stephanie's hand tightly. He had never seen such quiet despair before. His heart ached, but he also felt powerless. How could he reach them when no one else seemed to notice? Then something happened that no one expected. Cosmos moved closer, and in a way that would change everything, he spoke, not with words, but with his hands. A small motion, a gesture, a connection that cut through silence like sunlight through clouds. Before we go deeper into this case, take a second and hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like and let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how far these stories travel. But what exactly did Cosmos do that made two boys feel seen for the first time in their lives? Cosmos Eddie's mornings always started the same way. He'd wake up before the sun, make coffee strong enough to wake the dead, and prepare breakfast for his 6-year-old daughter, Stephanie. After that, it was the endless cycle of getting her dressed, brushing her hair, checking homework, and hustling to get out the door before the school bus left. Life had been like this ever since Stephanie's mother left. Cosmos didn't complain. He never had time. But he carried a quiet exhaustion, one that sat heavy in his chest like a stone. Bills piled up, laundry stacked in towers, homework scattered across the kitchen table. Every day felt like a race he could never win. Despite it all, Cosmos kept a smile for Stephanie. She deserved that. She deserved a life that felt normal, even if it wasn't. He would scoop her into his arms, tell her she was loved, and promise her small joys wherever he could. Work wasn't much easier. Cosmos drove an old sedan that rattled with every pothole, commuting to a modest office downtown. His boss was fair, but the office was competitive. People whispered behind cubicle walls. Promotions were rare. He kept his head down, focused on doing good work, but he always felt like he was just one misstep away from falling behind. Yet, in all the chaos, Cosmos found joy in simple things. Stephanie's laughter when she discovered a ladybug on the sidewalk, the way sunlight hit the kitchen in the late afternoon, and the rare moments when someone noticed he was trying, really trying, to make life better. One Thursday, after a particularly draining morning, Cosmos felt the weight of everything pressed down on him. Stephanie had lost her favorite backpack, the coffee machine broke, and just when he thought he could finally breathe, an unexpected email popped up on his phone. It was from Rebecca Dobson, a colleague he trusted. She had invited him to a charity event that evening. "It could be good for exposure," she wrote, "and it's family-friendly. Bring Stephanie if you want." Cosmos hesitated. Family-friendly events with strangers often felt intimidating, especially with Stephanie. But he also recognized an opportunity. Maybe tonight could be different. Maybe Stephanie could have fun. Maybe he could meet people who saw more than just a tired single dad. As he got Stephanie ready, she skipped around the living room, chatting non-stop about what she imagined at the event. Her excitement was contagious. For a moment, Cosmos forgot the exhaustion. He smiled. By the time they arrived, the hall was buzzing with laughter and chatter. Guests in suits and gowns milled around, cocktails in hand, smiling for cameras. Cosmos held Stephanie's hand tightly. He felt small, out of place, but determined to stay composed. And then he saw them, two boys, sitting quietly in a corner, heads down, faces hidden. The laughter around them didn't reach them. People glanced briefly, then looked away. Cosmos noticed the subtle gestures, the way they flinched when someone got too close, and the invisible walls that separated them from the world. It wasn't their fault no one noticed. It was just life had passed them by, and they had been left behind. Cosmos's heart sank. He knew something had to change. Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts so far on this story below. I read every single one. How would you react if you saw two kids who seemed to exist in a world everyone else ignored?
There was an unmistakable loneliness in their posture, a silent plea for connection. He felt compelled to reach them, but every step toward them was weighed down by doubt. Just as he opened his mouth, the room shifted. A group of older kids laughed loudly, pointing at Justin's hearing aids. "What are those things? Are you robots?" Benjamin flinched. Justin tried to shield his face. Cosmos's blood ran cold. He knew humiliation all too well, the sting of being singled out, judged unfairly. He knelt beside the boys, trying to appear non-threatening, calm. "Hey," he signed, carefully forming the letters in the air. Justin blinked up at him, surprised. Benjamin's eyes widened. The boys froze. No one else noticed, but in that moment, Cosmos became their entire world. "Don't worry," he signed again. "You're safe." Justin's hand trembled as he copied the gesture. Benjamin's lips quivered. Cosmos felt a warmth he hadn't anticipated. It was tiny, but it was real. Connection, understanding, recognition. Charlotte's laughter echoed from across the room. She was engrossed in conversation, oblivious to the moment unfolding in the corner. Cosmos felt the weight of invisibility not just for the boys, but for himself too. He understood what it meant to be overlooked, dismissed, underestimated. Stephanie squeezed his hand. "Dad, they need you." And Cosmos realized she was right. He couldn't just stand there, not tonight. Before we go deeper, I would love to hear your point of view. Tell me what part hit you the hardest in the story, and share your thoughts in the comments. The question now was simple. Could a stranger like Cosmos bridge a world that had ignored these boys for too long? Could one gesture, one act, really change everything? The laughter didn't stop. The group of kids continued to tease, oblivious to the pain they caused. Justin's shoulders shook. Benjamin's hands clenched into fists. Cosmos felt a storm of anger and helplessness rise in him. He wanted to shout, to demand respect, to erase the humiliation in an instant. But he couldn't. He had to act carefully. He had to build trust. He knelt lower so he was eye level with the boys. His hands moved slowly, signing simple words. "You are brave. You are strong. You are not alone." Justin mirrored him, fingers stiff at first, then gaining confidence. Benjamin followed. Cosmos felt a tear sting his eyes. This was it, the moment that mattered. Connection, recognition, humanity. But then a shadow fell over him. One of the adults, a manager at the event, leaned down. "Hey, you can't just hang out here. Move along." Cosmos froze. Fear gripped him. If he left, the boys would be exposed again, but if he stayed, he risked confrontation. He took a deep breath and signed one last word to Justin and Benjamin. "Wait." Then he addressed the manager calmly. "They need someone right now. Please." The manager hesitated, clearly unsure. Cosmos kept his gaze steady. "I promise it will be quick." Finally, the manager nodded and walked away. Cosmos turned back to the boys, who were staring at him with wide eyes. It was a fragile moment, one he couldn't ruin. Charlotte whispered, "Dad, I think they trust you." A small smile broke across Cosmos's face. For the first time, the boys relaxed slightly. But the room was still a maze of danger and misunderstanding. One wrong step, one misread signal could undo everything. Charlotte finally noticed her son's discomfort. She walked over, her voice a mix of concern and frustration. "Justin! Benjamin! What's going on?" The boys tried to explain, but their words were caught between soundless frustration and gesturing that no one else could follow. Cosmos stepped forward, signing rapidly, fluently. The boys' expressions changed from fear to relief. Charlotte's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. You can sign?" Cosmos nodded. "And they are amazing kids, but they need to be seen, understood, and respected." Charlotte's face softened, but the tension in the room didn't fully dissipate. The teasing hadn't stopped completely. Other adults were still looking around, confused, unsure how to act. Cosmos felt the weight of responsibility crush him. He was not just helping two boys, he was challenging a system that had ignored them for years. He glanced at Stephanie, who gave him a small thumbs up. She believed in him. That was enough to keep him going.
And then it happened. Justin reached out his hand to Cosmos. A small, tentative gesture, but the most powerful thing Cosmos had ever seen. Benjamin followed. Cosmos took both hands in his own. They were shaking. Fear, hope, and longing mingled in a single heartbeat. Before the next moment could unfold, a sharp voice interrupted. "Cosmos, are you sure you should be—" He froze. Everything seemed to teeter on the edge. One word, one action, and this fragile trust could crumble. And that's when Cosmos realized he wasn't just helping the boys, he was helping himself. The struggle, the doubt, the pain he carried as a single dad, it all mirrored their own. The stakes were higher than he imagined. What would happen next? Could a single dad truly bridge the gap between a privileged world and two invisible boys, or would the moment shatter under pressure? Cosmos took a deep breath. He refused to step back. Slowly, deliberately, he signed one simple sentence: "You are not alone." Justin's eyes lit up. Benjamin's lips trembled into a small, shaky smile. The room seemed to pause. Time itself slowed as Charlotte watched, mesmerized. She had never realized her boys were carrying so much silence inside them. Then Cosmos did something unexpected. He gestured for Stephanie to come closer. Together, father and daughter began signing simple stories, small jokes, and little hand gestures that sparked laughter from Justin and Benjamin. The tension melted away. Charlotte's voice broke as she whispered, "I had no idea." Cosmos shook his head. No one notices until someone takes the time. They've been invisible for too long. The twins laughed, signing playful gestures back to him. The joy was raw, real, and contagious. Even the other guests began to take notice, some awkwardly mimicking the gestures, others simply watching in awe. Rebecca Dobson appeared beside Cosmos. "I think you just changed everything for them," she said softly. Cosmos smiled, but he felt the weight of what had happened. It wasn't just a moment of fun, it was a lifeline. Justin and Benjamin felt seen, understood, and loved. Before we continue, take a second and imagine if someone reached out to you in your darkest moment. How would that change everything? Share your thoughts in the comments. The room had shifted. What once felt heavy with silence was now alive with laughter, gestures, and connection. Cosmos realized that kindness, even from a stranger, could break barriers that years of wealth and privilege could not. The event ended, but the impact lingered. Charlotte stayed close to her sons, signing with them, listening and learning. Cosmos watched from across the room, heart full. He felt a calm he hadn't known in years. Stephanie hugged him tightly. "Dad, you did it!" "I think we all did it," he said, smiling through tears. In the following weeks, Charlotte made changes at home. She enrolled Justin and Benjamin in sign language classes and encouraged their friends and colleagues to learn as well. Cosmos kept in touch, sometimes meeting the boys at the park or reading stories in sign language with them. Cosmos returned to his daily life, but he carried a new strength. He had helped two boys find their voice and in doing so, rediscovered his own. Life wasn't perfect. Bills still came, mornings were still hectic, and challenges never stopped. But now there was hope, laughter, and connection that had been missing before. He realized that even small acts, one hand reaching out, one gesture of understanding, could ripple into something profound. The invisible could be seen, the unheard could be heard. Before we finish, I want you to think about this. How often do we overlook the ones quietly struggling around us? What small act could you do today to make someone feel seen? Stories like this remind us that the world is full of invisible struggles, people who are overlooked, unheard, or dismissed every day. But connection, kindness, and understanding can bridge those gaps. Cosmos Eddie's story is one of resilience, not just his own, but of everyone who faces life's challenges quietly. Being a single dad, juggling work, parenting, and life's constant pressures, it's exhausting, it's unfair, but it also shapes compassion. Cosmos didn't just help two boys, he reminded all of us that the simplest gestures can carry the most weight. For Charlotte, it was a revelation. For Justin and Benjamin, it was a turning point. And for Cosmos, it was a moment of quiet triumph, proving that courage and heart matter more than status or fear. To everyone watching, remember, life's smallest actions can create the largest impact. Notice someone today. Offer a smile, a word, a hand. You never know who you might be saving or who might save you in return. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a like. If you're a single parent navigating challenges like Cosmos, share your story in the comments. Your words might encourage someone else more than you realize. And before we go, subscribe to The Redeemed Single Dad for more stories like this, stories of hope, courage, and the incredible power of kindness. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Thank you for sharing in Cosmos's journey. And thank you for believing in the unseen, the unheard, and the quiet heroes in all our lives. Before you leave, take a moment to think. Who in your life might need to be seen today? Reach out. You never know, the smallest gesture could change everything.